We're going on assignment with the Voice of America.
How has it been like covering the event?
And I have a list right here in front of me of all the journalists who were beaten.
I make the call because I'm on the ground.
The Chechen.
Gabe Joslow, VOA News, Mogadishu.
On assignment, coming to you now from VOA headquarters in Washington, I'm Alex Villarreal, here as usual with my co-host, Imran Siddiqui.
Thank you, Alex. First up, Crimea, the region at the heart of tensions between Ukraine and Russia. We'll talk with the VOA correspondent who was there.
The deadly Ebola virus is back, this time in West Africa. Who is at risk?
It's World Cup fever in Brazil. Sunny Young gives us a preview.
And then tracking sea turtles, what scientists are learning about these endangered reptiles.
On Assignment is on the air. Don't go away. It's Russia versus Ukraine in the fight over the Black Sea Peninsula of Crimea. But Russia's annexation of the region is not just a regional concern. The move has drawn criticism from around the world.
VOA's Elizabeth Arrett was in Crimea as the area voted to break away from Ukraine, and she talked with me about what she saw. Take a look. Elizabeth, Crimea has been in the headlines for weeks. What was it like? What was the scene on the ground?
It was very unusual, right from sort of getting off the plane. It was the day that what people refer to as the little green men, the Russian soldiers without insignia, that they had taken over the airport. They were very professional, but they would never admit that they were Russian. So it was sort of a surreal beginning to a rather surreal trip in which you had this, what was in some ways, it was an occupation, a military occupation, which was not acknowledged and yet carried out in a way that was, sort of unprecedented in the post-Cold War world, but in a relatively peaceful manner, the takeover of another nation's property.
And how were you treated there as a journalist, especially being a Western journalist, when this situation has raised so many tensions between Russia and the West?
For Western journalists, it was hard, and especially hard for Ukrainian journalists. In the beginning, not so badly, but as sort of tensions, and it became clearer and clearer that the pro-Russian side had the upper hand. People got much more bullying towards Western journalists. Some Ukrainian journalists were actually, sort of detained, and one of our colleagues, Daniel Scharf, he recently got his equipment seized by Russian soldiers. So it got tenser, and people were very kind of pretty rough in terms of how they felt about the Western press.
How do you make sense of this information war when you've got the Ukrainian side saying one thing, the Russian side saying another thing?
I'd been in Kiev before I went down to Crimea, so it was nice to be able to see that both sides were really overplaying the story for their own political gains, and how it was interpreted. Certainly Russia was saying that Kiev had been, was in complete chaos and under the rule of fascists. Clearly it wasn't. The Ukrainians were saying that the Russians were doing sort of horrible things in Crimea. And so it was very much two very, very different views of two situations that were diametrically opposed and continued to be. And then each side cut off the other's, media. So it just largely played out in the information world.
And it's interesting, too, that this was not your first time in Crimea. You've been there before in the 90s. So how did this trip compare to the time you went before?
Well, I think that was very interesting because back then, it was right after the breakup of the Soviet Union. There were pro-Russian women, older women that were so longing to be back part of Russia at that time. One woman who must have been well into her 70s, took me into her apartment, gave me tea, showed me her closet full of Molotov cocktails prepared for when, she would fight the fight to get back to Russia. So this is a long time in the making, yeah. And it's really those older people that were hugely in favor of what was going on. Talked to a lot of Crimean Tatars. They were very, very hesitant to come back under Moscow's rule. So it's a very tense situation. I think people are very nervous about what's going to go on in the next, not just sort of 6 months, but next couple of years, what it means for once the heat of the moment goes on, what for their daily lives is going to happen, and they look to other places where Russia's been, and they're not very reassured.
And you were there during the referendum, so what was the mood like surrounding that vote? Were a lot of people happy to have this opportunity?
Oh, certainly. I mean, for those older, especially for that older generation, pro-Russian generation, I mean, there were people literally weeping with joy of being able to go back to Moscow. The Tatar community, a lot of other people, they saw the inevitability of it. They saw what they considered the illegality of it, and they boycotted it, which is why you got such a high number in favor of going back to Russia.
VOA correspondent Elizabeth Arrett there talking about her trip to Crimea. Now, Elizabeth will be back on our show next week talking about death sentences in Egypt for hundreds of supporters of former President Mohamed Morsi.
We're taking a break now. Coming up on the other side, an Ebola virus outbreak in West Africa. You're watching On Assignment. Fear is rising in West Africa amid the region's first ever Ebola outbreak. The outbreak began in Guinea's southeastern forest region in February and has been spreading ever since, with the death toll continuing to go up. Lenore Madu covers African health issues for VOA and joins right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
What is this Ebola? Can you please explain?
Well, Ebola disease is the Ebola is a virus that was discovered in 1976 in the Central African region, precisely in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Back then it was Zaire. And it's one of the most virulent diseases known as of today. And it can cause death within days, and it's very, very dangerous.
And what are the West African health officials doing to try to contain the outbreak? Is there a cure? Can you avoid getting it?
You can avoid getting it. Some of the steps that have been recommended by health officials include keeping basic rule of hygiene, such as washing your hands, avoiding bushmeat. Some of the countries in the region, it's part of the diet to eat bushmeat, such as maybe monkeys or bats. So officials are really encouraging people to avoid eating meat as of now. And if you feel any type of symptoms, which include fever, vomiting, diarrhea, to report to the nearest health center. If there is a cure, no, there is no cure. There is not really a vaccine either. What they are doing to address the issue with people that are sick is to treat the symptoms, to keep them hydrated, and ensure that their own body kind of reject the virus.
But how does it spread?
It spreads, first of all, from the animal to human. It spreads by touching, coming in contact with an infected animal, wild animal. And from human to human, it's if you touch someone through bodily fluids, let's put it this way, the blood, semen, or any other type of bodily fluids, that's how it is spread.
But how, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, eating bush meat is a part of many people's culture. I mean, how can they avoid eating meat, which is a part of their diet?
It's very difficult, of course. I guess the most critical time is when there is an outbreak, obviously. So you just have to make the sacrifice, so to speak.
And lastly, it's been coming in outbreaks, cropping up and coming and going. Why do you think that has been happening?
It's difficult to say. Even the experts will tell you, because Ebola is unpredictable, it's rare, and it happens often in remote areas. What is happening today with the case in Guinea is rare, because we see it happening in Conakry, in the capital. So it's very, very difficult to tell what health officials hope is that they are able to contain it. Right now, WHO is working closely with the Ministry of Health in Guinea, as well as Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, and they're really keeping a close watch on the people that have been around those who are sick, and the people that, even the health workers, because they are very much victimized in a crisis like this.
Lenore Madu, VOA Africa Health Reporter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, it's time for another break. When we return, tracking sea turtles way out in the ocean. You're watching On Assignment. Sea turtles are endangered or threatened in nearly every ocean basin of the world. They spend most of their lives at sea, but little is known about the years between when they hatch and reach full maturity.
Well, a new study may help unlock this mystery. I sat down with VOA's Roseanne Skirble to talk about the latest research and how it may help scientists better understand what sea turtles need to survive.
What they're really interested in, the purpose of the study, is to follow the turtles through their so-called lost years. So the turtles are born on land. They scurry like wind-up toys into the ocean where they're basically lost. And they're about the size of the palm of your hand. And they don't come back for years until they're mature. A mature turtle won't lay her eggs until she's between 20 and 30 years old.
Wow.
So they're out for a long time. Tags were glued onto 17 baby loggerheads, which were tracked from Florida's Atlantic coast. The turtles stayed largely in the warmer surface waters. The satellite data also follows their movement in the large circular current in the North Atlantic. The lead author of the study, marine biologist Kate Mansfield, says about half the group moved into the Sargasso Sea at the center of this massive North Atlantic current.
That was pretty exciting, and it shows that the turtles have a little more variability in their movement patterns than this original idea of this large circular migration, one-way, unidirectional migration around the Atlantic.
What was interesting about seeing the piece is these turtles are so cute, and they're moving so quickly and they get into the water. So I'm curious as to how they were able to keep these tags on the turtles.
That's a good question, because the scientists spent a lot of time figuring that out. Now, the tag, it's important to note, it couldn't be too light. It couldn't be too heavy. We don't want to sink the turtle. We don't want it to float too much.
Right. They tried to do a lot of testing.
They did a lot of testing. It had to be just right. And so what they did is they glued on these tags. And how did they do that? They experimented. And finally, they figured out the shell of a turtle is the same as what your nails are made of.
Right.
So the glue or the acrylic that you use for putting fake nails on is the same thing that they use to keep these little tags on.
That is too funny. Very interesting. Now, what did we find out from this study about the turtles and their life cycle?
Well, once they got into the ocean, they followed them for between 20 and 220 days, or 27 to 220 days, to be exact. And what they saw is that they basically went in a circular, round and around and round in the Atlantic, from the tip of Florida to the eastern United States, some 4,300 kilometers that these little guys went. And they found out that they didn't all kind of stay within these basic currents. They went inside the current to what's called the Sargasso Sea. The Sargasso Sea turns out to be a popular refuge where young turtles can forage and find shelter in the mats of seaweed. Mansfield says identifying critical habitats like the Sargasso Sea is an important step for wildlife protection.
Perhaps this is a habitat, even though it's very transient and it moves and drifts with ocean currents, it's something that we need to consider as protection.
And you talk about this idea of protection, and we know these turtles are endangered. So what are some of the threats that they face?
Well, the largest threat is the threat of the loss of habitat, both on land and apparently on sea. This Sargasso Sea is a new, the scientists didn't quite know that they were going, or they couldn't prove that they were going there. So if conservationists can think about this as another place to protect the turtles, then perhaps the turtles can have a longer lifespan.
Of course. And what is their full lifespan? You said 20 to 30 years is when they mature, but do we know how long they can live?
Well, I think they can outlive humans for sure. Now that they've got this tag problem figured out, they want to figure out, well, how can they have this tag stick on even longer? Now remember, the turtle is growing and growing and growing until it gets to be about 1.5 meters when it finally gets back to...
It's a big difference from the little palm of your hand.
From the palm of your hand to 1.5 meters when it gets back to mate and lay its eggs. And they always basically come back to the same spot. The video that you're looking at is video from Brazil, where the scientists are now doing
because
this.
they're moving on.
They're
correct?
moving on to other ocean basins, because the turtles are not just endangered on the east coast of the United States. This is a worldwide problem.
And our thanks to Roseanne Skirble. We want to add that because these turtles tracking devices are solar powered, they are also smaller, meaning the researchers could put them on the backs of these much younger, smaller turtles, which enabled this study to happen.
Amazing. Yeah. Moving on, Brazil is gearing up for the 2014 World Cup. The soccer tournament, held every 4 years, is one of the world's biggest sporting events. Teams from 32 countries, including Brazil, will take part in this year's competition, which is coming up in June.
VOA's Sunny Young sat down with On Assignment's Philip Alexio to talk about the World Cup and its stars. For that, they made use of VOA's special penalty box World Cup studio. Check it out.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the preparations for this year's Cup.
Well, Phil, there have been problems in the preparations. Last-minute construction of some of the stadiums. One of the more tragic stories in the build-up to Brazil 2014 was the death of a couple of construction workers. The Brazilians are telling everyone they will be ready when the opening match takes place on June 12th between Brazil and Croatia.
Well, it seems like this always happens, whether it's with the Olympics and, of course, with the World Cup. South Africa, I guess, had its issues and got things going. But they've had 7 years to get this thing underway, and I guess the president of FIFA, anyway, Sepp Blatter, has been very concerned about it as well.
Yeah, Sepp Blatter has made some comments that the Brazilians need to get their act together. If we compare where Brazil is at now with South Africa 4 years ago, Phil, the South Africans had all their stadiums completed at this point.
So, okay, so let's just assume the World Cup's going to take place June 12th and everything is up and running. What's going on with Brazil in general, having the World Cup here? Tell me a little bit about what the people are thinking about this.
I think it's going to be a great World Cup, Phil. The Brazilian fans are known for their passion. You're going to see dancing in the stands. You're going to see singing. The Samba boys are like a religion in Brazil. And the fans are going to be terrific.
I guess it's going to be like the Mardi Gras World Cup 2014 if you're down there in Brazil. I mean, that's going to be a blast.
That's a good way to put it. Mardi Gras football.
Okay. Now, let's get to the games. I mean, what are some of the teams that we want to look out for this year?
You got to start with Brazil, Phil, and I want to point to this guy over here, Neymar.
Neymar, okay.
Some are calling him the poster boy of the 2014 World Cup. He plays for Barcelona, terrific striker. And you got to count the Brazilians as one of the favorites. They're going to be going for their record 6th World Cup title. Another favorite, Argentina. And I'm going to point to this guy right here, Lionel Messi, who, by the way, is Neymar's teammate on Barcelona.
Is that right? Okay.
Neighbor of Brazil. And a lot of people say until Messi lifts the World Cup trophy, he will not be considered the greatest footballer of his era, but Argentina has to be considered a favorite. And, yeah, those are two anyways.
Now, I was reading a little bit about Uruguay. Seems to have been kind of hot in the past few years. They won, the Copa Americana and something back in 2011. But they have capabilities.
They do. They made it to the semifinals 4 years ago in South Africa. They have a striker by the name of Luis Suarez. He's a volatile player, tempestuous, but he is a terrific striker. As we talk, Phil, he is leading the English Premier League in goals, 28 goals this season. He's their best player, and he could be one of the marquee players at the World Cup.
Okay, and one of the marquee people at the World Cup is going to be, I guess, Pele, I presume. What is going to be his role? He's kind of there he is. Okay, you've got him. Good for you.
Here he is.
All right.
Pele, in many ways, since he retired from the game, Phil, he's been sort of this unofficial ambassador of the game of soccer or football. And I think we're going to see an awful lot of him in Brazil, just basically sort of glad-handing people, welcoming them to Brazil. But, yeah, he'll be an ambassador during the World Cup.
Certainly be in the spotlight. Okay, now we're in the penalty box because you clubbed somebody earlier today. And he drags me in here. But, I mean, what's going on here? This is kind of a new thing. Amish is our camera op, but he created the whole deal, so we might as well include him. Yeah, hey, Amish, and there he is. But what's the deal here? You're going to be here a while.
Let's give a shout out to Amish. This is his brainchild, his creation. Great World Cup studio here. And basically, it's going to be a new video series being launched by the Voice of America in April. And we're going to talk with various Voice of America personnel throughout our building. And you well know, Phil, people from all over the world work here at the Voice of America. It's been called the United Nations of Broadcasting. So we'll have people from all over rooting for their favorite team in Brazil, and you'll see a lot of national flag waving. But it's a great concept, the penalty box, and it's going to be a new World Cup video series.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. And so, but before we send it back to the guys in the studio, what do we want to see a lot of at the World Cup? Goals! Okay, cool. All right, excellent.
All right, well, they are certainly ready for June. VOA's Sunny Young and Philip Alexio getting us pumped for the World Cup.
Yeah, I can still hear them. They're ready. Amazing. Well, while we're still on the subject of sports, Major League Baseball is back. The pitches and hits are flying once again at stadiums across the United States.
Professional baseball players may have some of the best eyesight in the world to see that tiny, tiny ball. It's a crucial talent for hitters, and scientists are documenting just how this acute vision helps them perform. Shelley Schlender reports from Phoenix, Arizona.
At the Cleveland Indians training camp, the pitcher throws and Luigi Rodriguez says batting takes practice and good vision.
The ball is a little small, so you gotta have good eyes, you know. Look at the pitcher's arm to see where he's gonna throw the ball.
Ophthalmologist Daniel Labby says most major league batters have incredible eyesight.
So the normal average person can see something from 3 meters, where the baseball players see it from 6 meters. They can be twice as far away and still see the same targets.
Labby and optometrist David Kirshen are pioneers in the science of sports and sight.
So we have the opportunity to work with the vision for several sports, and it turns out it's a key component in some sports and not as important in others.
Like boxing.
Because their target is very large and very close, but they have to be able to move their hands very, very quickly.
Batting is a different story.
Just when it's released from the pitcher's hand, they have to see the spin of the seams. And based on that spin pattern, they know what pitch it is. When you know what pitch it is, you know where it's going to come. Once you know where it's going to come, you can put the bat in the right place to make a good hit.
To turn normal eyes into super eyes, many players, like Cleveland Indian Jake Lowry, wear corrective contact lenses.
It helps me see the pitches, see the seams on a ball. Helps me keep the brightness down when the sun's out.
The standard eye chart is not good enough to test athletes, Kirshen and Labby say. They've designed this test where a computer flashes a tiny letter C and the athlete sits several meters away. Labby demonstrates.
And that one is to the left side. That one I couldn't tell, so I'm going to guess. For me, as an eye doctor, very, very difficult. But the baseball players seem to see most all of these.
Kirshen says this test might help identify people who need more training for faster response.
And when you think of elderly drivers, for instance, they may be able to see like an eagle, but they can't process it fast enough to be a safe motorist.
And it might give budding athletes a better chance.
I want to be a baseball player when I grow up.
And if you have a young child who's interested in playing baseball, and they're trying their best in the field, but they just don't see well enough, the coach won't spend as much time with that player as they will with the player who's doing very well.
He says testing eyesight and getting people the correction they need can help everyone do better at their game, whatever it is. For VOA News, I'm Shelley Schlender in Phoenix, Arizona.
So, Alex, I think I have pretty good eyesight, and I could have been a fantastic baseball player. What do you think?
Well, lucky for you, I happen to have the perfect way to test you.
Really?
Right here.
Oh,
got
okay.
some very, very tiny type.
Oh, that's
so
tiny.
Can you read what that says?
Of course. I am getting a paycheck increase. Only me.
Oh, and it says I am too, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
bad eyesight.
Unfortunately, we don't have all day to prep Imran for his new baseball career or us for our special raises.
All right.
But we will be back next week, and you can always check us out online at voanews.com and YouTube, and be sure to follow us on Facebook at VOA On Assignment.
Thank you so much for watching On Assignment. Until next week, goodbye.